This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Cabana Republic, and we do have Zlex going to be starting off as the orange allies to the left side, and on the right side we do have Oxem, who is going to be the blue empire, and I do not know who Oxem is, but we will be seeing. It looks like actually a fairly standard opener from him thus far. He could be going for a triple expand, but off of triple racks. Not necessarily the most common thing to do, but it's not all that uncommon either. And other than that, it looks like it's pretty standard for Zlex as well. It does not look like it will be a triple refinery, which, I mean, on Cabana Republic, triple refinery into Tengu mass is pretty darn good. And of course, then once you get up some Tengus, you can tier up, get some Strikers and Tsunamis, and it's just a pretty good map to do that on. Of course, you do have to be very careful anytime that you try to early triple expand. As Empire, we also have very short walls here by Oxem, so he's looking to go and just kind of protect his Harvester without actually protecting the refinery itself. Just a little bit of a money saver there, not a big deal by any means. We do have dogs rushing out, but Oxem has already got the dojo in position. He's got that core set up so he can lock down any dogs just fine. And Zlex is desperately going to be trying to take down the engineer. He might be able to get it, but likely will not. Zlex grabs his own oil derrick right there, but no, he did not get the opportunity. And there is going to be the capture for both of these players. So both the players going to be having their naval yard actually out for Zlex. Interestingly enough, both of them have grabbed their oil derricks. We'll have to see the Riptide into Javelin Troopers. There's only one Javelin Trooper here. Probably going to be adding on a couple of more, bringing up some Peacekeepers. Also a very odd placement there for the naval yard. Looks like Zlex is going to be setting himself up with a third base. And about this time, we do have the Mecha Bay going down, as well as the additional power plant. So there's the second power plant that allows you to power all of that stuff, selling off one of the dojos. Fairly passive opener for both of these players, not the necessarily most aggressive opener that either one of these players could have gotten an additional Riptide. And actually going to be building something else as well, so we'll have to see exactly what Zlex has planned with that naval yard, since he's not going to be going for a Riptide Javelin Trooper combo, which is at least a little bit more common. And pretty common on any map, but particularly this map. A couple of Tengus are now out, and the core is being most likely sent up to the ridge to go ahead and see what exactly is going on there. But no, he does decide to deploy it there. That's a pretty forward position, but not that big of a deal. Imperial Warriors rushing out across the map, and more Javelin Troopers. So Zlex just really wanting to go for that eco. He's got his power plant down, started in his walls. He wants to make sure that he secures his third base, but here is the Riptide. And the second one seems to have stopped short a little bit. And oh, we actually do have a command hub going down, which there really is only one reason that you would do that. And I'm pretty darn sure that we are going to be seeing some tech out of Zlex. So Zlex may very well be able to make some sort of allied play in this game, especially if he gets up to Tier 2, and then, of course, Tier 3 for the aircraft carriers, although that is much later in the game that would be happening. Tengu going to be flying across the map. Still no real Tengu harass out of Oxem. He has yet to do anything of the sort. However, we do have, just barely going to be able to escape both the Riptide and the Tsunami tank, which, I mean, it's alright for the Tsunami tank if he wants to go ahead and escape like that. He can always just get a couple of repairs next to that war factory, which, I mean, he's so close to getting free repairs, and he's just not getting anything. Third refinery going to be heading out for Oxem, and he will be most likely sending that up to the ridge. Of course, trying to sneak it past those Riptides just wouldn't be the best of ideas. Multi-gunner turret going to be taking down that Tengu, and oddly enough, we have not seen very many Tengus at all out of Oxem. Oxem will be losing a Tsunami tank most likely here, although it will possibly escape as he does establish his third base. So Oxem needs to really do something. He doesn't have a lot of units, period. He just doesn't have very many Tengus. He went for fairly early tech, and now he's just got one of each. He's got a Tsunami tank, a Striker, and a Tengu. But other than that, he's got infantry. He's pumping them out of this Imperial War or dojo over here. He was able to grab both of the ore refineries, but simple fact is Zlex has had his third for a fair bit longer. However, the Chopper VX is going to be able to take down that Riptide. We could be seeing some hydrofoils out to help deal with the Chopper VX, but then also take down any Tengus, which may be flying. which of course will allow Zlex's Vindicators to do a little bit more damage wherever they are. They're flying out right now, and they will see a ridiculous amount of infantry. So this is such a weird game on Cabana. We didn't see a lot of Tengu early on, which Tengu's on this map, especially for an allied player who's expanding relatively early without any sort of armor facility. There's the hydrofoil, by the way. You can harass at multiple locations pretty easily. 2 Tengus at the expansion and 2 in the main base can allow you to take down a harvester or 2 pretty darn quickly, and then your allied player is going to have to decide, well, which location do I want to really defend? Oxem, is he actually, so this is either the worst attacking force or the worst contain ever, where you pull back literally all of your Imperial Warriors to deal with 2 Peacekeepers. You could have actually just pulled back, say, 3 of them, and then you either bonsai charge them to death with your additional 2. We do have actually an assault destroyer on the field now, or you just shoot them up, but it looks like if Oxem, yeah, he is going to be actually splitting his forces. So he's got most of the map, but he's not really doing a whole lot with it. Now we do have that Tengu mass, which we really should have seen about 3 minutes ago, out of Oxem as he adds on a 4th refinery, the Apollo, going to be flying around the map and making sure that none of these Tengus do too much damage, although with 6 Tengus flying towards this Apollo, that Apollo is going to need to get out of there immediately, and it will turn to engage, but that is a very bad idea. Will he actually get the snipe? No, he will not, but the Vindicators are going to be setting themselves down as well. The cryo shot going to be going off, and the Imperial Warriors will completely dodge it. Nice dodge there by Oxem. We do have the, I would swear that I saw a refinery. It's right there. We do have that 4th refinery being added on. Imperial Warriors going to be able to take it down that dojo just fine, that barracks just fine. However, the Imperial Warriors are, of course, going to have to be pulling away, as that assault destroyer will just be doing way too much damage with the black hole armor activated. He'll be able to crush tons of Imperial Warriors, and actually he could end up just paying for himself. And we do have 2 hydrofoils currently on the field, but an assault destroyer is really what's going to be doing the damage. A snipe of a tsunami tank. So Zlex trying to really make this sort of... Oh, actually, he has an assault destroyer harassing the main of his opponent. Could actually be using the hydrofoil to lock down one of these units. I'm fairly sure that he can go ahead and reach from that range. And right there, he will be locking down the tsunami tank exactly like he should. Pulling his hydrofoil back to make sure that he doesn't take too much damage. But he's got that tsunami tank mostly locked down, which means these Tengus are not going to be very effective. And this is actually an extremely powerful unit combination for Zlex. As long as there's only 1 tsunami tank, but now that there's only 1 again, since it did get crushed, he can harass this area of the base as long as he stays near the hydrofoil for oh so long. And now he is actually going to be pulling back, and that tsunami tank cannot give chase with the hydrofoil on that no weapons mode, locking it down right there. However, we do still have the 2 Vindicators, and now that we have an extra base for Oxem, we will most likely be seeing a swell of units. Actually going to be adding on a 5th before any more units, and I don't know how good of an idea that is just with the present forces that we have seen out of Zlex. The Imperial Warriors have just been money that is literally running around on the ground, not doing any damage to try to earn their worth back. So we had 2 Imperial Warriors going down right there, just making those Vindicators worth a little bit more. However, this Assault Destroyer will most likely get taken down. However, we've got 3 out of 4 hydrofoils could be locking down the 3 out of 4. Well, now 3 out of 5 tsunami tanks. How is there another Assault Destroyer? It's nowhere near enough to actually do anything, but we do have the hydrofoils going to be able to lock down the tsunami tank, and by lockdown I of course mean just nullify their damage output. But now we do have a rapidly expanding Empire player, and he actually still doesn't have all that much. He could throw down either another dojo and really go for a huge tank buster mass, which would allow him to just march right up if he would actually utilize these Imperial Warriors that he does have. Or he could maybe even, once this 5th base kicks in, add on an additional, well, Naval Yard will work for sure, but a Mecha Bay while you're pumping out tsunami tanks from one and Tengus from the other is an excellent way to spend all of that money. However, with just tsunami tanks and no striker support, it will allow the hydrofoils to just go ahead and focus their no-fire weaponry on top of those tsunami tanks, which means these tsunami tanks will be extremely ineffective. Weapon jammer. No fire mode is the exact same thing, I promise. We do have a prospector going to be setting up an expansion over here for Zlex. He's looking to get himself a 4th base. However, Imperial Warriors charging directly into that building, going to be able to take it over, but he will be taking some casualties because of that. And, oh, Assault Destroyers will actually be able to take down, force off the sell-off of the expansion and take down the Naval Yard as well. The power plant being forced to run for the hills. And that prospector has been spotted and has spotted that refinery. The multi-gunner turret does go down. However, the Peacekeeper is going to be able to do some extra damage against some of these Imperial warriors. He will get taken out right there, but Zlex has got some serious firepower that he has to deal with. He is going to be splitting his bombs fairly well, able to take out a number of Imperial warriors there, but is it actually going to be enough? He should be able to hold here, especially if he can get a multi-gunner turret down, which he does currently have one building. He's experiencing some money issues right now, simply because he simply doesn't have enough money to continue producing as many assault destroyers as he does have. He's actually got 2 on the land, so skipping an armored facility entirely for the cheaper naval yard, but then he does have to go ahead and build those assault destroyers, which Black Hole Armor, pretty darn good. We do have a huge swell of tsunami tanks here. This is the kind of forces that you would expect to be seeing, and it might actually be better to just rush in there with the tsunami tanks. We'll have to see. The assault destroyers on the middle are not actually going to be moving in, so Zlex needs to make sure that he just holds off the infantry while he's able to pressure the main, but he definitely needs to be doing some economic damage if he wants to continue in this game, or else it will end up not mattering how many assault destroyers that you have, because there will actually be enough tsunamis to just take them down. I mean, three ref allies versus 5 ref empire is a pretty hard match to win if you are allies, but we'll have to see. Not to mention 2 oil derricks as well, which he has had for at least the past 5 to 6 minutes. And so that is a huge chunk of change that Oxem has been collecting over the course of this game. Still, this survives. This is a very low harassment game and for both of these players. And, oh, going to be leaving all of these tsunami tanks just here to die. They're completely frozen down. Of course, the drones may actually be protecting them a little bit here, but he will be able to take down at least 4 of the tsunami tanks. He trades 1 assault destroyer for it, but that is not too bad of a trade when you're taking down 4 tsunami tanks, only losing 1 assault destroyer. And right now we do have the splitting of the units for Zlex, which actually is going to be getting a crush on 2 of the tsunami tanks right there, evening up the score quite a bit. Those 2 assault destroyers coupled with the javelin troopers inside of that structure are going to be able to do a huge amount of damage and also hold off a high number of tsunami tanks, which now the army has been pulled back, and Zlex is actually going to be splitting his forces. He's got assault destroyers basically everywhere on the map, actually going to be harassing up here with a multi-gunner turret, so he's going to be locking down 2 of the expansions relatively quickly. And considering that this base was gone for quite a while, which I did say 5 refinery empire, but I forgot it was only 4 refinery empire, but the 2 oil derricks do add up to be quite a bit. Adding on an additional refinery, going to be most likely going for that water expansion. And now Zlex is actually not in a bad position, but he wasn't in a good position up to this point. So with the damage that he just did, he was able to kind of even the score, but that doesn't change the fact that for a couple of minutes, he was on the down foot, and those couple of minutes could end up making and allowing allowing Oxem to actually just be able to push through in this game and do huge amounts of damage. But the assault destroyer control has been very good from Zlex. He's also been fairly active with his Vindicators. Oxem is simply going to have a tough time. He's going to have to make very few mistakes because of the crushing ability of the assault destroyers, but every assault destroyer that goes down is, of course, a nice victory for Oxem, and Zlex has 2 very heavily damaged assault destroyers, which could be taken out pretty easily by Oxem if Oxem does, in fact, get the chance. Going to be going ahead and re-establishing that 4th base, or rather that 3rd base, as the 4th was taken out and wasn't able to expand to the water. He does still have those 2 oil derricks, but assault destroyers heavily damaged pretty much all over the place, and engaging this multi-gunner turret not necessarily going to be a good idea. 2 tsunami tanks, I believe, just went down there as the cryo shot does go off. It will trap at least 1 of the tsunami tanks, but it does not matter. Yes, it does. That is whoa, that multi-gunner turret wasn't actually taken out. I thought it did get taken out there. He's going to be going for the build radius to try to deny any more multi-gunner turrets from going down, and then he'll have a pretty easy time of smashing that expansion. In the meantime, he's got no Tengus. He's got no Strikers. Actually, he does have Tengus, but you wouldn't know it because he hasn't done anything with them pretty much the entire game. And even just sending them over here to camp these harvesters would be a better idea. Just a single javelin trooper for defense, but other than that, Zlex would have to be forced to reroute forces to deal with them. 2 tsunami tanks will survive and escape on there, which is not too bad considering he was able to take down, actually not a whole lot. He took down an assault destroyer, multi-gunner turret, and the command hub, but the refinery, the harvester, both do still survive, and he lost 2 tsunami tanks for it, so that's not a great exchange, but it is not a too bad of an exchange. And oh, suddenly Zlex just became very, very powerful. He's going to be able to take it down this expansion without too much trouble, and considering that we have no Strikers, which strikers would be good in these engagements. At the very least, you're going to be forcing Zlex to not be able to use his hydrofoils to go ahead and deny and use the weapon jammer on the tsunami tanks. Sending 2 tsunami tanks to deal with this army is not going to be good. Throwing away 2,500 credits, also not the best idea. However, he did not lose the cores. Zlex is actually deciding to not engage that refinery. Rushes in his hydrofoils for no reason, decides to lose one of them. Will be able to jam one of the weapons of the tsunami tanks, but this refinery will most likely not stand. Even if it does stand, he has lost his refinery back at home. These tsunami tanks may be able to actually take down an assault destroyer if this other assault destroyer does leave. Black hole armor just not quite effective enough to lock down these assault destroyers completely. However, the tsunami tanks are getting completely owned here simply because of that black hole armor when it is in range of the other assault destroyers. Of course, drawing fire away from the assault destroyers and boosting the damage of the assault destroyer with black hole armor activated. These 4 tsunami tanks are going to be trying to escape, but will they actually be able to? Throwing tank busters into that building is a great choice by Oxem. But again, I wonder, are these... No, he actually did move the Tengus, so he did something with them. Not entirely sure what. He's got a single tsunami tank, which will most likely be just taken out and completely owned. However, this ore refinery will have not paid for itself. Could be going for the harvester just to lock it down a little bit quicker, but we will be able to take down that refinery. And actually, Zlex going to be pulling out a huge number of infantry, re-expanding to the north, which means he is now going to be on those 5 refineries, and suddenly the situation is basically reversed. That harvester will get taken out, and that black hole armor is really what is allowing Zlex's assault destroyers to be so effective, because black hole armor, even if you're just crushing tsunamis, is so good. And assault destroyers, suddenly, I feel like this is whatever the previous patch was, where assault destroyers didn't have the armor reduction when using black hole armor, and so they were used a lot more because they took almost no damage, especially IFVs with those engineers, giving them constant repairs. That was a very deadly combination. We have a cryocopter out, but a good infantry strike that really should have happened about 4 minutes ago, maybe even 5 minutes ago, is just now happening, and still no Tengus to provide anti-air support, which is such an odd choice. Going for just tsunamis, not the best choice by Oxem, and right now he is definitely going to be feeling the wrath of that. Two cryocopters. One cryocopter is bad enough, considering it can lock down infantry pretty quickly, but as soon as you're adding on a second cryocopter, then you're locking down 2 infantry at a time. Switching targets can be super effective as well. We do not have a multi-gunner turret going down. We do have a couple of infantry going to be swinging in, and these infantry have been in that structure for quite a while. We will have the MCB on the move. It will be running away because, hey, they're going to be trading expansions and kind of main bases, although Zlex didn't have a whole lot on the land for his main base, and that Peacekeeper is being so effective. Tank busters going down all over the place, but cryocopters not being utilized quite as effectively as they could be. Imperial Warrior completely heroic, and now a completely heroic Vindicator could be getting taken out. Zlex lift it off into the air. At least you'll have a chance to rebuild. No, he gives away that Vindicator. A mistake there by Zlex, and now he is actually going to be losing his expansion. Great moves here by Oxem. Suddenly, Oxem is doing tremendous amounts of damage. Why he's going for a low power multi-gunner turret, I have no idea. At the very least, you could be taking out the power plant and eliminating and making that power down even longer. However, we will be taking down the refinery, which really does matter. The Prospector will be getting eliminated before it can get any crushes off, which is, of course, very, very great by Oxem again. Again, that cryocopter could be locking down one of these fully heroic tank busters and just eliminating that damage output. Even if you're not killing a unit with a cryocopter, eliminating the damage output in some cases is just almost as good. It's not technically as good, but it is pretty good regardless. And now 2 Peacekeepers will definitely be able to clean up the rest of this army, which means that Oxem's assault has suddenly ground to a halt. We have the Prospector Command Hub going to be going ahead and re-establishing that main Yari mini-sub with the Harass, which really is just way too late, and suddenly the aircraft carriers are just so good. A heroic status on at least one of them. Both of them are fully heroic. And Zlex, he has taken a lot of damage. Oxem, in the last, 2 minutes, he was just like, oh, hey, I guess I can attack. I guess I'll go do tremendous amounts of damage. And just ridiculous amounts of damage, just taking stuff down. Takes out, what was that? That was, what, 3,800 credits worth? No, I'm bad at math, but 4,800 credits worth of cryocopters right there. If you think about that, that's 2 refineries, as well as hitting refineries. Suddenly, Oxem is just, mind-blowing with actually doing stuff. But I mean, he's taken so much damage. We've got the refinery down here. We have no other refineries on the map. He's held on to both of these oil derricks for such a long time, phasing his MCV into the cliff a little bit there. Unfortunately for him, I guess MCVs can't actually crush those assault destroyers, but now that the aircraft carriers are suddenly in range of this MCV, they will likely make very short work of it. Stuff happening all over the map. The Tengu's going to be getting taken out. Too bad they weren't there earlier to provide fire support. The Vindicators would not have been as effective in considering how many of the Vindicators were able to take down tsunami tanks and just do that extra bit of damage, making the armor that much weaker. Army, rather, that much weaker. Going to be calling in support powers, getting himself some extra tank busters. Unfortunately, 2 of them, it looks like they did glitch out at least a little bit there. There goes the Mecha Bay. Didn't get a chance to sell it off. He could have possibly gotten some cash back, but really, what is he going to be doing with that cash? He very likely cannot even spend the cash that he does have. A Tengu getting a bad rally point, but Zlex doesn't actually care. The MCV almost getting taken out, so close to dying there. The Assault Destroyer will likely be taken out. That is now a pretty awesome tank buster, but he's got 2 more Assault Destroyer friends, which actually one of them, Double Vet, could be getting taken out very easily. And sometimes I think players just need to turn on health bars, and then suddenly they would realize that there are some opportunities that do await them, and that's not just killing down weaker units. All sorts of different things can allow you to identify units in a mass when there's just a ton of infantry and you're like, what is the actual composition of that infantry? Suddenly, you know it a little bit better. Assault Destroyer going to be able to get taken out there, so nice snipes there, but I feel like these are the snipes that we needed to see. This is the damage output that we needed to see. What in the world? That Yari mini-sub, I swear their torpedoes just swung around there. But yeah, this is the damage output and the harassment, all of the things that we needed to see maybe about 10 minutes ago against this build. But man, just the fact that Oxem decided to go for such a Tengu light opener really did allow Zlex to make this build work oh so well. Assault Destroyers all over the map. I don't think he ever at any point did build an armor facility, and he has taken a tremendous amount of damage in the last 5 to 6 minutes. But in the end, he has done a huge amount of damage, and the standing army for Zlex is more powerful and higher tech than the army for Oxem. We'll have to see. This Yari mini-sub, is it fully heroic? It is. He may be able to actually take down the seaport fairly easily. We do have 3 Tengus going to be switching over here, and they will be able to add additional damage output to take down this. Oh, actually, is that? No, I thought that was splashing the Tengu, but he will be able to take down that naval yard. Going to be calling in the Cryogeddon. Could have actually possibly gotten all of those units. Wanted to go directly on top. We do have an Assault Destroyer pulling back. Zlex may have this game in the bag, although he could definitely still throw it away. There's almost no way for Oxem to come back from this game. He's got no production facilities, no MCV. He's got an oil derrick and a refinery. So at the end of this game, he'll probably have about 20,000 credits just stored up. Oxem actually only has about 5 grand stored up, oddly enough. So he's not floating a ton, but he's still floating quite a bit, and Zlex can really just sit out on the water where the infantry can't reach him and just have a ton of fun, especially once the Tengus are forced to engage in the north. Actually, are there any Tengus left? I'm not entirely sure. There's a burst drone, which really won't be doing a whole lot. Oxem may have more stuff on the ground, but Zlex has definitely got, with the MCV advantage, it is going to be a hard road to come back from. Oxem being defeated there, too passive an opening to allow that build from Zlex to really, actually the passive opening allowed that build from Zlex to do a huge amount of damage, because Zlex didn't actually have a whole lot other than a couple of Riptides, which pretty much got owned pretty early on. The Tsunami tanks were able to deal with them without too much trouble, but other than that, no real unit mixing from Oxem. He did have a point where he was just so far ahead in resources, but then he didn't really do a whole lot with that, and then suddenly Assault Destroyers crushing Tsunamis multiple sides of the map, and Zlex able to engage extremely efficiently there really did allow him to do quite well. And of course, huge amounts of infantry not really doing anything didn't really help either. But in the end, about 11,000 credits in favor of Oxem over the course of this game. But of course, of 5,000 of those at least, he was not able to spend. And of course, losing that MCV really did seal the deal. No production facilities, no MCV, really no chance against an opponent who does have an MCV. So a very interesting allied build from Zlex. Not necessarily the best game ever played, but that will do it for this match. This is Sybert signing out.